In March 2025, BYD made a potentially groundbreaking announcement.
The company announced a new technology claiming it can charge an electric vehicle almost as quickly as it takes to fill a gas car.
You have companies like NIO, Lishan, and other Chinese NEV manufacturers that are clearly on par, if not better, than Tesla right now. Tesla was recently dethroned. BYD, which most people outside China have never heard of, is now outselling, innovating, and outmaneuvering every major automaker in the world. We're talking about hybrids that outperform Toyota, electric vehicles that charge in 5 minutes, and batteries that are so safe they won't even catch fire. Governments are buying buses. The infrastructure of cities is changing. Then Tesla. Its ground is quickly being lost. How could this have happened so quickly? And why isn't it being discussed? What you are about to see will change your perspective on the long term of automobiles. Let us investigate. BYD's ascent. How did we get here? BYD did not just appear overnight. It was built in silence, perspiration, and beneath the shadow of giants. BYD was setting up factories while Tesla was making headlines. BYD was developing its own batteries, while others were rushing to raise funds. Legacy companies debated electric futures, while BYD had already begun manufacturing them. What happens if the most dangerous player is also the quietest? How does a company that most Americans still don't recognize suddenly outsell Tesla and threaten to destroy the entire automotive industry? The narrative begins in 1995. At the time, automobiles were not mentioned at all. Not a single electric vehicle. Just a Chinese company that manufactures mobile phone rechargeable batteries, especially for nickel-cadmium and lithium-ion. Wang Chuanfu, a chemist turned entrepreneur raised in rural poverty, founded BYD and developed it with a strong focus on efficiency. BYD quickly became a major player in the global battery market, not because of its flashiest technology, but because it understood how to scale reasonably priced, practical energy storage. It produced reasonably priced, reasonably durable products suitable for mass production on a tight budget. Things began to change in 2003. BYD's purchase of a failing state-owned automaker, Qinchuan Automobile Company, appeared to be nothing at the time. Most people saw it as a side project, a diversification strategy. For Wang Chuanfu, however, this was the logical next step. He had already carried the battery tech. He could control the entire process if he could bring manufacturing in-house and design the rest of the car around his batteries, from the chemical composition of the battery to the design of the seat seams. He precisely followed that. BYD became vertically integrated before the term became popular. As a result, they no longer rely on hundreds of third-party vendors for critical components. People make their own batteries. They design their own chips. They assemble their own vehicles. This gave them an advantage over other manufacturers, including Tesla. While Tesla relied on vendors such as Panasonic and KTL, BYD was developing its own battery packs at its own pace. This resulted in fewer delays, more precise quality control, and lower manufacturing costs. Despite this, the majority of the world's population was unimpressed. That changed in 2008, however. Indeed, that year, Warren Buffett took an unusual and unannounced action. He invested $230 million in BYD for a roughly 10% stake through Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett is not well known for betting on tech companies or believing hype. For many years, he avoided Apple stock. So why BYD? He observed what a few others did. A calm, orderly business is already laying the groundwork for the future. That purchase started a fire. BYD suddenly became more than just a regional battery manufacturer. It was quite credible around the world. It evolved first into plug-in hybrids, then into fully electric vehicles. And BYD became well known in China, a country rushing to electrify its massive automobile market. It began producing electric taxis, trucks, and buses. BYD was shipping thousands of EVs to Chinese cities, while GM and Ford were defying US regulations. BYD's growth is primarily driven by a simple concept. You manage the supply chain, which means you manage the future. Most manufacturers operate like sophisticated symphonies, many vendors, thousands of moving parts, and a constant risk of disruption. BYD runs like a single instrument. Every aspect of its operations is interconnected. This makes it cheaper, faster, more adaptable, and terrifying to the competition. Ask yourself, when a company can produce faster than Toyota, make better batteries than Tesla, and sell at a lower price than Hyundai, what happens if the same company enters your home market with a price that your hometown brands cannot match? BYD outperforms Tesla. The industry is in turmoil. Tesla, a Chinese automaker once dismissed as a budget brand, has just been smashed regarding revenue, volume, and global impact. In just a few years, BYD has grown from a small local battery manufacturer to the most disruptive power source in the global automotive industry. And now, officially for the first time, BYD has surpassed Tesla on several key fronts. How could a company that most Americans can't pronounce destroy the industry's golden child? BYD immediately rocked the automotive industry in 2024 when it achieved such high revenue levels, $107 billion. That figure is not only large, but it exceeds Tesla's, $97.7 billion. This is not a story of catching up now. In terms of total sales volume, income, and units, BYD outperforms Tesla. This type of figure prompts investors to ask uncomfortable questions and boardrooms to become terrified. More incredible than the money is the scale. BYD sold approximately 4.27 million cars worldwide in 2024. That's almost 10 times the 2020 sales figure. Tenfold increase in less than 5 years. This is not only incredible, but also unprecedented. Most automakers would consider it a blessing to grow by 10% per year for several years. BYD erupted rather than simply growing, and it accomplished this by adding more models, entering new markets, and mercilessly scaling its manufacturing. China remains BYD's strongest ally. The global EV market is by far the largest, and BYD is unquestionably the king. Now, however, BYD is winning both in Europe and at home. BYD outperformed Tesla in Italy and Spain in 2024. Germany and the United Kingdom, two of the world's most competitive automotive markets, are rapidly closing the gap. These aren't flex, these are warning signs. Given that Europe has long been a hotbed of Western manufacturing, no legacy executive can afford to ignore the fact that a Chinese company is gaining significant traction in markets traditionally dominated by German and American brands. The speed at which BYD is traveling makes the situation even more dangerous for Tesla and others. They aren't waiting for market trends to guide them. They are defining fashions. BYD recently applied for a new model called the Seolan 06. This is part of an aggressive expansion of their EV and hybrid portfolio, with a focus on the crossover SUV segment, which dominates sales in all major markets. Customers now have a flexible option that is both reasonably priced and performance-driven, as the Seolian's line is designed to hit both the hybrid and full electric sweet spots. BYD's innovation rate is equally concerning to its competitors. Earlier this year, the company unveiled what could be its most disruptive technology yet, the Super E platform. This new EV architecture can charge up to 400 kilometers in just 5 minutes. That is made possible by a staggering 1,000 kilowatts charging capacity. Simply put, this could eliminate the main barrier that prevents EVs from running: charging time. Why should the average customer be afraid of the switch when they can fill their battery in the same time it takes to fill their petrol tank? This platform could significantly close the infrastructure gap, allowing for EV acceptance. Currently, one of the main bottlenecks is the time it takes to use the chargers, rather than their number. If BYD is able to successfully install these high-speed chargers, range anxiety will become obsolete. It would begin to center around convenience. No other manufacturer, including Tesla with its well-known supercharger network, currently offers this level of charging speed across their entire range. Tesla's superchargers operate at a maximum of 250 kilowatts across the majority of its fleet. Not even Tesla's upcoming V4 chargers exceed 1,000 kilowatts. In contrast, BYD's new platform is not only faster, but also designed to handle large-scale implementation. And now comes the crucial part. BYD oversees charging architecture, vehicle design, and battery technology. Vertical integration leads to a faster rollout, tighter control, and fewer delays. As its size and complexity grow, Tesla finds it difficult to maintain this level of operational agility. Pricing is another weakness of Tesla. Tesla is losing its competitive advantage in Asia and Europe, not because its vehicles are inferior, but because BYD redefined affordability. Years of claiming the title of reasonably priced premium EV benefited Tesla. That space has recently been taken over. While offering comparable, if not superior, range, features, and comfort, BYD is producing vehicles such as the Dolphin and Seal for thousands less than Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y. These are not low-quality stripped-down vehicles. They are graceful, clever, and quick. Price matters in markets such as Spain and Italy, where average incomes are lower than in the United States. and BYD benefits from it as well. BYD's rise is also significant because it coincides with a period when Tesla's story is beginning to unravel. For years, the company has promised a $25,000 vehicle, but nothing has materialized. Multiple delays in the introduction of Tesla's Cybertruck have raised questions about whether the company prioritizes spectacle over scale. BYD simply continues to launch in the meantime. Their teasing isn't directed at ideas. Their production models are currently being filed. New factories are opening under their supervision. They focus on closing deals. Nowadays, both governments and consumers prefer consistency. Quiet, methodical, and quick. Insiders in the industry are beginning to whisper the unthinkable. Tesla may never be able to regain its former dominance. According to one analyst, Tesla's era of leading the pack is over. Bloomberg today's battle is to avoid falling behind. Insiders are beginning to express opinions that clearly indicate the direction the tide is turning. Why aren't we hearing more about this in the United States? Since the story still perpetuates the myth that Tesla is untouchable, given Elon Musk's constant 10-step lead. However, the numbers don't lie. Revenue is dropping. Global market share is declining. However, BYD is not the only one catching up. What I mean is that we are already ahead. Future expectations continue to support Tesla's stock. But right now, BYD is delivering. Quarter after quarter, they deliver performance. Markets all over are paying them for it. The Blade battery, BYD's silent weapon, is housed inside a BYD rather than a Tesla. Most likely, you've never heard its name. However, the Blade battery is demolishing the EV sector's knowledge of cost, safety, and performance. Fundamentally, BYD's success stems from a deliberate decision to bet everything on lithium iron phosphate, also known as LFP, rather than following the rest of the industry into more expensive and volatile battery chemistries, like nickel manganese cobalt, or NMC. Right now, that decision appears to be among the wisest in modern automotive history. LFP batteries are inherently stable. They do not rely on nickel or cobalt. Furthermore, they are less expensive to produce. However, BYD did not stop with LFP use. They redesigned the battery's internal architecture, and this is where the Blade battery comes in handy. The Blade battery stacks elongated ultra-thin battery cells side by side like blades, as opposed to traditional stacked pouch cells or cylindrical cells like Tesla's 4650. As the name implies, the increased surface area enabled by this design significantly improves thermal control. It does not overheat. And if you've been following the EV industry for any length of time, you'll be aware that one of the most serious risks in battery technology is overheating. Thermal runaway, the condition in which a battery catches fire or explodes, is every manufacturer's worst nightmare. And the Blade battery was designed to eliminate that as well. BYD passed the nail penetration test, one of the most brutal battery stress tests. This test simulates a puncture or crash impact by driving a metal nail directly into a charged battery cell. This test fails most batteries. Some acted violently. The Blade battery from BYD did not catch fire. It produced no smoke. The surface temperature barely changed. It remained cool, solid, and whole. This represented more than just a safety revolution. It was a test for the entire sector. What are you doing if you aren't using better structures and safer chemicals? Because NMC batteries have such high energy density, they are still used in the majority of EVs today, particularly in the premium market. They can theoretically hold more energy in less space. That comes at a cost, though. Cobalt is unethical and expensive. It is sometimes extracted under conditions that involve forced labor and environmental damage. Nickel is becoming increasingly scarce and expensive. BYD's Blade battery is also not an exception. It makes use of phosphate and iron, which are abundant, inexpensive, and much more stable elements. In terms of cost, sourcing, and public image, BYD clearly leads. And here's what really sets it apart. BYD discovered how to extract high energy density from LFP chemistry by optimizing the battery's internal layout. LFP batteries' lower energy density usually results in a shorter range. However, the Blade battery design stores more energy without increasing size by using fewer structural components and more active material, thereby improving energy availability. You now have range without risk, a longer-lasting, safer battery produced without increasing manufacturing costs. That goes beyond a simple victory. That directly targets all other EV platforms. Today, BYD's Blade battery powers everything from luxury sedans to city commuter vehicles, buses, and even experimental hypercars. It's versatile enough to cover every category. BYD is not developing separate battery lines for each product. They're perfecting one system and applying it everywhere. This level of standardization accelerates improvements, lowers manufacturing costs, and simplifies design. Tesla aimed for the level of efficiency represented by its gigafactory construction. Only BYD implemented structural innovation and material science. This is where Tesla feels uncomfortable. Tesla quietly began including LFP batteries in its regular range vehicles 2 years ago. Most importantly, the Model 3 and Model Y are sold in China and some European markets. Mastering a technology, however, is not the same as using it. Tesla continues to rely on third-party vendors, including KTL, to supply LFP packs. In contrast, BYD develops on its own. It can thus design the battery, the car, and the software all at once, optimizing for performance, cost, and energy efficiency, while maintaining complete control over the process. Controlling the entire stack allows you to achieve efficiencies that others cannot. One can fine-tune charging curves. One can maximize power output while preserving cell life. Real-time communication between software and battery chemistry is possible. It's more than just a battery these days. That's a combined power system. And in a field where milliseconds of acceleration and minutes of charging time define acceptance, those details matter more than most people realize. One must also consider lifespan. After 1,000 charge cycles, most EV batteries begin to deteriorate significantly. The chemistry of LFP is more stable. Many blade batteries retain more than 80% capacity, even after 3,000 full charge-discharge cycles. This results in a longer vehicle life and a lower total cost of ownership. This makes BYD's products very appealing to governments and fleets looking to purchase a large number of electric vehicles. Not only will you get a cheaper car, but it will also last longer and require less maintenance. Pausing here allows you to strategically consider what this means. Infrastructure and cost, rather than speed or even range, are the primary barriers to global EV adoption. The blade battery alleviates both issues. It costs less to manufacture, charges faster, lasts longer, and scales more easily. Governments looking to electrify public transport systems aren't concerned about battery fires or short life cycles. Consumers are unconcerned about degrading expensive replacement packs or range. It streamlines the entire ownership experience. As a result, adoption is accelerated without the use of incentives or subsidies. You are purchasing a self-contained battery ecosystem that is free of outsourced technology, unstable raw materials, and unproven design risk, not just a BYD car. BYD created theirs and is expanding it globally, while other companies are still looking for the next innovation. Where does this leave everyone else? Catch up. Toyota has only recently begun to move some models towards LFP. GM is still deeply involved in NMC chemistry with Ultium. Ford is experimenting and has not provided a clear LFP roadmap. Tesla, the EV market leader, is years behind BYD on this front. And the gap is widening as BYD continues to introduce new cars based entirely on the blade battery platform, super hybrids, and the end of conventional engines. Assume the best car for the future is not entirely electric. What if the best strategy is to use fuel only when it makes sense, rather than giving it up entirely? BYD is acting exactly in this way, and the findings are beginning to concern both traditional manufacturers and EV enthusiasts. Years of debate in the automotive industry about whether to go all electric or stick with petrol. BYD is subtly demonstrating that the true solution may be somewhere in the middle. This approach focuses on BYD's Super DM system, which stands for dual mode. This is not your typical hybrid either, reversing the logic of how fuel and electricity should collaborate. This next-generation platform. Most hybrids continue to be primarily powered by internal combustion engines. They are essentially just battery-assisted petrol vehicles. Super DM by D flips the model. It only uses petrol when absolutely necessary and prioritizes electric power as the primary driver. This is a complete rethinking of how hybrid propulsion should operate in real-world conditions, not just a software upgrade. That produces a hybrid system with a thermal efficiency of 43.04%, is among the industry leaders. Although that figure may not seem significant at first glance, it is revolutionary in the automotive industry. At best, most petrol engines are 35% efficient. Toyota, the first hybrid system innovator, uses approximately 40% in its most ideal models. BYD surpassed that. Thermal efficiency measures the proportion of energy and fuel that is actually converted into useful work. Heat trumps everything else as lost. As a result, when BYD achieves 43%, they extract more usable power from each drop of fuel than almost anyone else. They are also utilizing that efficiency. Consider the Song Plus DMI, one of BYD's premium plug-in hybrid SUVs. Its fuel economy is as low as 6 liters per 100 kilometers. That's excellent for a midsize SUV. More remarkable, however, is how it drives. The Song Plus DMI's electric-first design provides seamless torque and instant responsiveness, as opposed to conventional hybrids, which often feel slow to accelerate due to the complexity of switching between power sources. Why is this important? Drivers continue to split in the modern era. Some people value gasoline's familiarity and convenience. Others long for the quiet, orderly experience of electricity. Many, however, are not prepared to make decisions. Furthermore, you do not have to. BYD's hybrids offer customers a third option. Most of the time, a car that operates like an electric vehicle, EV, sips fuel as needed, eliminating both range anxiety and complete reliance on petrol. Is there no charger available at home? Not an issue. Making plans for a road trip through rural areas without EV infrastructure? You're covered. This hybrid offers no compromises. This is a strategic advantage, and one that Toyota already considers dangerous. Toyota dominated the hybrid market for 2 decades, with the Prius and subsequent models. Today, however, BYD's DMI series outperforms Toyota in terms of performance and efficiency. That is not an insignificant detail. That represents a paradigm shift. Toyota built its brand around dependability, fuel efficiency, and slow innovation. However, BYD is demonstrating that tighter manufacturing, smarter control systems, and improved battery integration enable even those pillars to be surpassed. BYD can do this in part because they control everything. The battery, software, engine design, drivetrain, and other components were all developed in-house. Vertical integration ensures that hardware and software do more than just coexist. Their intended operation is a single system. It enables real-time optimization between electric and fuel modes, allowing the vehicle to easily adapt to changes in terrain, driving style, or even temperature. In cities, electric vehicles run quietly and cleanly. The fuel engine fires most precisely at the most efficient point of the highway's power curve. Though you will never feel the difference, you will notice the results at the pump. This is a nightmare scenario for both traditional automakers and all-electric vehicles. Tesla and other EV-only companies have built their businesses on the belief that internal combustion is out of date. However, not all markets are ready for full electrification. Large parts of the world still have patchy charging infrastructure. Despite falling prices, many consumers still find batteries prohibitively expensive. The bridge is made of hybrids, but not the old-fashioned kind that barely works. The type that BYD is developing: forceful, efficient, and high-performing. And here is Tesla's painful reality. Its avoidance of the hybrid market may prove to be a significant blind spot. In an ostensibly electric world, Elon Musk has always dismissed hybrids as transitional technology, calling them pointless. That, however, assumes that everyone is simultaneously prepared to leap. Adoption does not operate in this manner. Certain markets move faster than others. There are some early adopters among the customers. Others exercise caution. BYD understands this and is customizing its lineup. The demand for a hybrid that feels like an EV but does not require complete dedication is high in Latin America, Southeast Asia, parts of Europe, and even rural America. And BYD is fully meeting that demand. These are not low-volume niche products either. The DMI and DMP series are key components of BYD's global strategy. They're selling on a scale. Every sale represents one less customer for Volkswagen, Ford, or Tesla. Don't forget about the commercial and fleet sectors. Plug-in hybrids are the ideal choice for municipal fleets, delivery services, and taxis. Low emissions for city use, with a backup petrol range for longer trips. BYD has already supplied thousands of these vehicles to governments and commercial operators worldwide. Actually, many Chinese cities have completely replaced their taxi fleets with BYD plug-in hybrids because the total cost of ownership is lower than maintaining a full petrol fleet or funding the entire EV charging infrastructure. That goes beyond a simple victory. This constitutes a takeover. The fact that BYD does not see hybrids as a backup strategy is perhaps most intriguing. They aren't a side issue. The hybrid line is built with the same level of engineering attention and creativity as the full electric line, but it also offers a simpler, less expensive design. It's a full-featured car with stylish design, cutting-edge technology, and entertainment value. To put it differently, it does not feel like a compromise. Taken together, these elements form a larger narrative. BYD does not only manufacture vehicles. The goal here is to develop strategies. It outlines how to win each phase of the transition to electric vehicles, market by market. BYD is providing solutions for the present, while other businesses debate which future to invest in. And this is why it's dangerous. The internal combustion engine is still in use today. Still, it is not the story's hero anymore. It's becoming more of a supporting actor who is only called in when absolutely necessary. BYD's Super DM system is also driving this transformation. It's not about running away from petrol. It's about making it pointless. Older traditional engines will appear out of date as hybrids become more responsive and efficient. This is something that traditional brands are very concerned about. Global takeover. Inside BYD's master plan, what if the goal was to dominate the entire market rather than just the tech race? Most people overlook this aspect of BYD's approach. While the rest of the world focuses on batteries, range, and acceleration, BYD is quietly working on something much more ambitious. A global supply chain, a political chessboard, and a distribution empire that extends well beyond personal vehicles. What does it look like when an automaker views geography as an actual battlefield? And how do you fight a company that is concerned not only with your governments and contracts, but also with your streets and businesses? BYD's ambition to dominate technical specifications is unrestricted. It scales according to location, quickly. The company has already set a target of over 800,000 overseas sales by 2025. I'm not referring to production capacity. This is only about exports. This is a shockingly high figure for a company that only recently began looking beyond China. However, BYD is not hoping for the best when shipping vehicles across oceans. It is expanding locally, becoming established in foreign markets, and adapting to make tariffs and trade restrictions more difficult to enforce. BYD has already established itself in California and the American industrial scene, not in cars, but in commercial vehicles. Its Lancaster plant manufactures electric buses and trucks to supply fleets across the state. These aren't vehicles with concepts. Currently, airports, schools, and city transit authorities use them. BYD made a simple bet. Beginning with public infrastructure, gain control over governments so that not only consumers benefit. When cities begin to operate BYD buses, the general public becomes aware of them. The rules follow. Then there's infrastructure. Market entry becomes a formality. BYD's plans to establish a new vehicle manufacturing plant in Camaçari, Brazil, were derailed by controversy. A labor raid revealed allegedly poor working conditions for Chinese workers hired by a third-party construction company. BYD delayed manufacturing by immediately canceling the contract. Though the damage is real, the story emphasizes BYD's rapid movement. It is not awaiting perfect conditions. It is aggressively entering markets, despite political and legal risks. Although the factory may be postponed, the intention remains clear. BYD prefers having a direct presence in South America, not very far away. Mexico follows. BYD may establish a facility in North America to avoid U.S. import taxes by leveraging the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. If that happens, BYD will not have to ship vehicles into the United States at all. Under current trade rules, it is legal to migrate and develop them across borders. American automakers cannot ignore this calculated workaround. A Chinese EV manufacturer building vehicles for the American market in Mexico. That is completely impossible. It has already begun to move. I appreciate you watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Click the next video to see more intriguing content.